Coming up next, we have a presentation from Colliers, who has been the consultant that has been hired to conduct our town center study. And we're joined today by Kimberly Baptiste. She's on Zoom. We'll send it over to you, Kimberly.
Great, thank you. Thanks for letting me join your meeting tonight. I see Paul is on as well. I don't know if you wanted to do some kind of introduction, Paul, before I jump into the brief presentation.
Yep, so didn't have one prepared. However, again, the town has consulted with Colliers. We went through an RFP process, vetting several consultants, and Colliers was chosen along with Camoin. It'll be included on a later slide too, but this is a combination of a firm who has experience with development plans and having a firm who is market consultant, economic development consultant. So again, this is looking at the town center area, two specific areas, kind of our sub areas. And again, that'll be kind of explained. But again, Kimberly Baptiste, I would like her to address the town council and kind of provide some information for the residents. Because I know at the previous meeting, there were some questions and the public wanted to know what was, progressing with the study. But again, we are at the early phases of the study right now.
Great, thanks, Paul. And I'm going to share my screen. And again, this is just kind of a quick high-level overview of the planning process that we are currently embarking on. So hopefully everyone can see the screen okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So topics I'm going to cover briefly tonight: introduction of our team. Paul covered that a little bit for me. Give you the big picture overview with regards to study area and the overarching goals and purpose for completing this planning study. Talk about the scope elements and the timeline, and then the importance of community engagement and how it's really going to help inform the process. And then I will turn it over to all of you and see if you have any questions. So as Paul mentioned, Colliers Engineering and Design is the prime consultant working with the town. We are a full service architecture, engineering, planning, and urban design firm. So we will be really kind of leading overall project management, helping to facilitate the community engagement process, and ultimately responsible for all of the plan development. We are supported by Camoin Associates. They are a nationally recognized market and economic firm. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about their role when we get into the scope elements. So project overview. So when you are talking and thinking about the town center study, this is the study area that we are really focused on. So you can see, Cedar at the northern end, Main Street's our western boundary. Our southern boundary is really the south side properties of Lowry Place, as well as John Stewart Drive, and then covering the Hartford Healthcare property as well. I think an important nuance of this is really looking at the study in kind of two distinct sub areas. We've got the traditional town center area, which includes, Constitution Square, your traditional Main Street, Market Square, commercial uses along Lowry Place. This is an established area and district within the town that will really be focusing on how can we better support, enhance, and grow the town center and really make it a 24/7 four-season destination for residents and visitors. And then sub-area 2 obviously has a very distinct quality with regards to the Hartford Healthcare site, recognizing that Hartford Healthcare is leaving the property if they have not already, doing so in short order. So really provides an opportunity to think about what is the highest and best use and the best future for that area of the town. So we'll be looking at it collectively and holistically, but also making sure that we are understanding kind of the differences and the nuances between those two areas within the larger town center study area. The overall project purpose, again, this is a planning study. So our goal really is to create a strategy that lays out a framework to help the town understand what are the highest and best opportunities, what are the appropriate development types, how can we foster economic viability, how can we support existing businesses, but also encourage new businesses to invest in the town center, And how can we really ensure that moving forward, the town center is a recognized gathering space for community events, programming, and a full range of uses. So our project scope, I'm going to go into these at a very high level, so happy to get into more detail in the Q&A if desired. But we are starting the existing conditions analysis. So this is really looking at it from the perspective of physical conditions within the town center. So understanding land use, understanding land ownership, understanding the existing attributes of the public realm, streetscapes, bike ped connectivity, also understanding and looking at the social and demographic conditions and how that might relate to future development opportunities. Parallel to us working on that physical conditions analysis, Camoin Associates is starting their market analysis, and they are really looking at, again, opportunities across various sectors from commercial to entertainment to residential to light industrial, research and development opportunities, office. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that any of the recommendations that come out of this planning process are rooted in market realities as well. So it becomes a very iterative and nuanced approach to understanding the market while also understanding what we're hearing from the community and what we're seeing on the ground with the existing physical conditions. A large part of what's driving that is community visioning. I'll talk more about that community engagement process in just a few slides. But ultimately, we will kind of synthesize those early components of that existing conditions, the market analysis, what we're hearing from community members and stakeholders to really develop a couple alternatives for, future build out and modifications or enhancements within the town center area. We'll also identify strategic redevelopment sites and do detailed concept planning for those sites, really taking a long look, not just at private sector opportunities and privately owned lands, businesses, but also looking at kind of public realm enhancements as well, really focusing on kind of connectivity and really creating that strong sense of place within the town center. All of that will get coalesced into an implementation strategy, which is essentially the roadmap that lays out how you move from this planning phase into implementation of the recommendations that are within the plan. From a timing perspective, you can see from this graphic, since we've been working with the town in the late summer, we've really been focused on a lot of kickoff activities. So data gathering, information collecting, really now diving into that existing conditions and the market analysis. And you can see that our goal really is to have most of the substantive content prepared by, Q1 of 2025, with the plan completed by spring of 2025. So as I mentioned, community engagement is really critical to informing the process. We have developed a community engagement strategy, which identifies the various tools and techniques that our team will be utilizing over the next 7 months to really make sure we are hearing from a diversity of voices and a diversity of perspectives as it relates to defining and identifying the preferred vision for the future of the town center. So some of those elements that we will be facilitating, and some of these are already underway, but core team meetings, so meeting regularly with town staff and leadership to talk about progress and to solicit feedback to help inform our next steps. We're in the process of developing a steering committee and do intend to have our steering committee kickoff meeting in early November. Also, as part of that overarching strategy, intend to provide regular updates and solicit feedback from various focus groups and existing commissions. One-on-one stakeholder meetings with key property owners, stakeholders, potential developers within the town. We will also be having 3 formal public workshops. We are hoping to squeeze in the first one before the end of this year to make sure that all of the public is aware of this process and give them the opportunity to provide some initial feedback into vision and their ideas for the future of the town center. Pop-up engagement. So these are informal activities, and you can see an image, and Paul is front and center in this image from the Waterfall Festival. So, giving opportunities where people don't necessarily expect to see us or expect to be talking about the project, but, where we know there is a captive audience. So being able to kind of capture people where they least expect it, but solicit feedback and get their ideas on the planning process. We also have a project website. It is newingtontowncenter.com. So this would be the landing page for information specific to this planning process. Right now it's got pretty basic information with the study area and just some background on the planning process. But as we move forward, it will certainly have more information that will be readily available for public consumption, kind of 24/7, whenever anyone wants to log on. There's also a link to our online survey, which I will talk more about, and also a comment page on the website. So if anyone thinks of something, when they're laying in bed in the middle of the night and want to make sure our team's aware of it, they can log on to the website, and all of that feedback comes directly to our team. I did mention the website has a link to our online survey. Again, this is an initial survey. We anticipate having a series of online surveys available over the course of the project that will be modified based on kind of what milestone we're at. This initial survey is really, initial data gathering, feedback. So getting some initial ideas about people like today at the town center, what isn't working as well, and what do they see as some of the key opportunities. We have already gotten over 260 responses to the online survey. So looking forward to kind of continuing to share that survey and gather even more feedback that will really be an important foundation in helping to guide the planning process. So with regards to upcoming engagement activities over the course of the remainder of October into November, continuing with those core team meetings, as I mentioned, holding steering committee meeting number 1 and starting a lot of those one-on-one stakeholder meetings. We are looking at early December before everyone really gets in the holiday rush for public workshop number 1 and potentially steering committee meeting number 2. Just wanted to also give you a little sense and a flavor of some of the key themes we've heard to date from the public based on feedback we've gotten at the Waterfall Festival, as well as what we've heard from the community survey. The one that really jumped out at me is everyone seems very favorable about parking in the town center. And I will say that is not something I typically hear in the planning process. Usually everyone's very angry about parking, but everyone really appreciates the parking accessibility within the town center. They love the fact that it's walkable. They love restaurants. Would love to see a little more retail opportunity in the town center. Of course, a grocery store did come up a few times. Opportunities for more housing. There were a few comments very specific to kind of creating more of those arts-oriented spaces. Revitalization of the Northwood Shopping Center, and just the fact that, Hartford Healthcare with its departure is really an opportunity that could complement the balance of the town center area. So just to give you a little flavor of what we're hearing thus far. With that, I'll stop sharing so I can see folks, and I think Paul and I are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from councilors? Council Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I just want to say, as a preface, that thank you for the fantastic presentation. It's very exhaustive. I know a lot of members of the public had questions about what this was going to look like, and particularly a lot of the businesses in the area that is, of conversation here. Had some questions as well, and I think it's going to give folks a lot of great information. I think we're at a watershed moment as a town, right? I mean, this is a exciting thing to pursue, and I'm glad that we're getting our hands around it, because scattershot development doesn't serve anybody, and particularly in our center of town, it certainly doesn't. So I think this is fantastic. A couple brief questions that I had. One was about the community engagement strategy. I see here that there was a draft one. Is that something that we could be provided with just to take a look at as well?
Yep, so I can answer that. So the community engagement strategy, again, it is in draft. We're reviewing it internally for final comments. But yes, that is an item that is part of the process.
Great, terrific. And just as a part of that, I saw here when I was reviewing the timeline that the community visioning portion, we're kind of rapidly moving towards the tail end of that. So I wanted to understand a little bit more these elements of the engagement strategy. Or is the intention that much of these take place within that community visioning period, or do these extend beyond them? I just want to understand for the public's edification what they can expect more in terms of their role over the course of the next months.
Yeah, and I can start, Paul, unless you want to. But
Yep, I think you can start with it and I can add.
okay. Yeah, the engagement process will run for the duration of the project. It's kind of the one continuum that runs through each phase of the project. From the visioning perspective, as I mentioned, the Waterfall Festival, the survey are two elements that will contribute to understanding that preferred community vision, in addition to upcoming engagement activities related to stakeholder engagement, the steering committee meeting #1, and the first public workshop that we are envisioning happening in early December. After that, after we get through that visioning phase, subsequent public engagement activities will include a design charrette early in 2025 that will really start exploring kind of land use scenarios, public enhancements, potential physical changes to the town center and the Hartford healthcare site. And then the third formal public kind of milestone will be when we get to a draft plan. So still room for modification and tweaking of recommendations, but being able to present something substantive to the public, get their reaction to it, and then make modifications to the direction of the plan as needed. But in addition to those kind of three overarching public milestones and formal public meetings, we will be interspersing stakeholder engagement throughout the process, those different pop-up events throughout kind of the year until we hit spring of 2025, and then the focus groups and commission updates and meetings as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much. That was very helpful, and I appreciate the presentation again and all your work on this.
Councilor Draco.
Yes, I have a few questions. I'm glad to see that there will be more significant, public engagement. I guess my first question is, you talk about the stakeholder meetings. Can you identify who you think the stakeholders are?
So we have been working with, Paul and town leadership in identifying those stakeholders. Broadly at this point, we are looking, to talk to some of the key property owners within the town center area, as well as some, various business owners and users within the town center area. And Paul, I don't know if you want to offer more specifics than that.
Yep. Yeah, and there are some owners who own multiple parcels in the town center. There are some who own individual businesses. They're all stakeholders. No matter if you own one single or whether you own a quarter of a block, you are a stakeholder in the process. There are stakeholders who have larger opportunities for key sites, which have contiguous area and potentially could be redeveloped. Again, the conversations with those owners might be slightly different. You have owners of individual buildings who, again, want to see improvements around their buildings. And a lot of this stakeholder engagement is, that concept of what will make this a better experience for you as a business owner to actually utilize the area of the town center around your business, what's going to work for you. In addition to that, we have the residential tower. That is a stake, they are stakeholders. I actually talked with I believe it was Councilor Page who noted after the Waterfall Festival that he talked to the other gentleman named Paul down there. I had a great conversation with him as well. And also talking with Jefferson House and Cedar Commons as well, because they are also connected to the town center. And I do have concerns, about connectivity to making sure everyone can equitably use the space of the town center. So it is multifaceted when we're talking about it's not just property owners, it's those who live in the area. And again, it's those specific users, some of them who have specific needs. And they are important stakeholders to understand how it's going to work for them.
Okay, I guess in connection with that, I know in the past when opportunities or proposals have come up for the town center, what seems to be, in my opinion, and obviously the people who came out, their opinion is the neighborhoods directly adjacent to the town center. You've got Northwood, Centerwood, Southwood, that neighborhood. My particular concern is Holly Street and the Holly Street neighborhood. I mean, that's within walkable. Whatever happens in that town center, those residents are going to be impacted. So I would hope that some kind of outreach. I know you're having these public workshops, but many of those people, because some of them are elderly, it's an elderly neighborhood, whatever, would be made aware, or maybe you could have a neighborhood specific meetings for, again, those substantial residential neighborhoods right adjacent to the town center. And again, you kind of skipped over, or not skipped over, but you said they're associated traffic concerns. But Holly Street is already a cut through, and depending on what happens in the town center, it's going to be very dangerous and potential for substantial traffic. So you need to talk to those neighborhoods. And also, as you're aware, Kimberly, one of the major streets bordering this town center study is Cedar Street. And that's got to be somehow, and they can't be ignored in your discussions of what's going on with the town center or your proposal. Thirdly, and maybe you were just the marketing, but you did mention in the beginning, you want Newington Center to be a 24/7 destination spot. I'm not certain those adjoining neighborhoods would really want to see it hopping, and music and whatever, 24/7, whatever. So I hope you were just kind of selling.
Yeah, that's more a phrase for integrating potentially housing, right? So people are living there and not just coming during the day. That's a planner phrase we use, and that was just building on, some of the feedback we got in the initial outreach has said people would like to see potentially housing on the Hartford Healthcare site.
Okay, not nightclubs.
No, not nightclubs. But noted that was your interpretation. Avoid that phrase in the future. Yes, not thinking of turning it into a nightlife center.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Page.
Thanks, Mayor. Really just one question. I appreciate all the information you've given us so far and the opportunity to speak with folks at the Waterfall Festival and certainly tonight. As per Councilor Pedraco and other folks' comments, I'm sure tonight, we are the land of steady habits and we do have reasonable concerns about our neighborhoods. I live in the neighborhood right in the center. And so we want, on the one hand, things to stay the same or get better if we don't like the way they are right now, in terms of our quality of life. At the same time, when we use the word vision and we think about, I think of a generation of say 30 years down the road, what the town center might be in a sustained way, both economically as well as for our quality of life and our day-to-day living. That means change, and that means disrupting or causing some angst maybe for some of us around within the context of our land of steady habits. Yeah, I don't know if you can speak, and this is maybe just philosophical, how you navigate both of those potentially competing interests, which is, in New England, we like things to stay the same, dag nabbit, and yet at the same time, we want to be creative, innovative, and think of the generation that will come after us and what the town center and this community can be for those folks. Can you speak to any of that? How do you do that? How do you navigate that, negotiate that?
Yeah, and I think, that's a great question. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten thus far has been positive, but a lot of it has also been on, even if it's, subtle changes or subtle improvements or subtle modifications that folks would like to see or they think would benefit their quality of life, their enjoyment of the town center, the prosperity of the town as a whole. So I think it really is that kind of the need to kind of balance what community members are saying that, they would like to see change, even if those changes are subtle, but also really kind of embracing the opportunities. And I think part of our role in that is making sure that we are being very transparent and thinking about, educating the community as part of our community engagement process. So they don't just see it as kind of these major changes or kind of potential modifications, but see it as opportunities and understand why certain recommendations are being made, not just us coming in and saying, hey, we don't live here, but we know this will be better for you in the long run. Really understanding the importance of kind of the educational component in the outreach and making sure people understand how those changes could positively impact them. Even if they seem kind of scary or overwhelming at the time.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Yeah, thank you for everything that you're working on. I know that Councilor Pelor touched on community involvement, but if people start to hear about this in the public, can you just talk a little bit more about how they can be involved? I know there were some surveys and different things, but just in case people would like to know what they can do to have their voices heard, what can they do?
Yeah, I think immediately, right, if we can direct folks to the website where they can get a little bit more information about the background of the study, the area that we're looking at, focusing on. And I do think that initial online survey, which is available via the project website, is an important initial tool. Once we finalize a date for that public workshop, that will be on the website as well as any future meeting dates. And then after meetings occur, all of the meeting materials will also be posted on the project website. So there will be kind of continuously updated materials that if people miss a meeting, they can still refer to materials and understand what was discussed. What are, the feedback that came out of all of those meetings. So I do think the website, is a great portal for that 24/7 information and where people can find information about upcoming engagement activities. We will certainly be working closely with the town to promote and advertise those activities above and beyond just the project website. But I do think that's, a good resource for people to get used to checking in on.
So what I'm hearing you saying is there's going to be public meetings where anybody in the public can come out and talk about what's going on?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. And if I could, I would like to add, not only talk about what's going on, especially once we get into the workshops where we're looking at the charrette, beyond talk, work with us at the tables, at whatever we have with maps and surveys and questions as we develop this out, that participation in those events, beyond just, submitting comments is critical as well too, because it gets us to a higher level of understanding of working with the residents rather than, just submitting a comment, which is great, which I highly encourage. And I am also available if, a resident has a comment or a concern, they can also reach out to me as well.
Thank you. I think that's very important for the public to be involved and for them to know how to do that. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yes, thank you. Some of the questions that I have probably have been already answered. I just want to begin by saying how much I appreciate the construction of the website and making that accessible to folks to be able to gather all the information, find out dates of meetings, keep themselves well-informed. And Paul, also your invitation to have people reach out to you as well, with everything else that you do on a daily basis. You may have already explained this, but can you talk a little bit more about the public workshops, just very, very briefly, and what people can expect? along with focus groups that I see you also have listed as activities that'll be taking place as we move forward.
Sure. Yeah, the public workshops, and those are the formal public workshops, right? Which again, will be complemented by the pop-up engagements like the Waterfall Festival and other outreach activities. But we are anticipating 3 formal public meetings, right? Where we'll be saying to people, you come here at this certain place and time, to get involved in the project. The first one, which we are anticipating in early December, would be, part informational. So just making sure that people are aware of this process, understand, the goals and the outcomes of the process, what our team will be preparing, and then, really engaging them in a visioning exercise. So really understanding from community members that are in attendance. We like to do very interactive, very limited of someone from our team talking at people. Our preference is always, hearing more from the community than hearing from us, understanding sometimes a little context is needed from our team. But that would be an interactive visioning workshop. The second meeting, which would be in early 2025, would really be organized and formatted like a design charrette. So very interactive, kind of think of it as large rollout maps of the town center area, lots of different colored markers floating around the room, visioning boards, interactive boards displayed, really getting into some of the nuanced land use and design elements of the project. And then the third meeting would really be, which would be more in kind of probably early spring of 2025, would be, again, interactive, but where we would be presenting to the community preliminary recommendations that have come out of the process and give them the opportunity to react and provide feedback on those recommendations.
Okay.
And then with regards to the focus groups and commissions, we're working with Paul right now to really, define and identify what that process is going to look like. But knowing you have some really strong, commissions and people already established that have a lot of understanding and knowledge to share with our team about topics pertinent to town center, economic development, for example. So really leveraging some of those existing commissions within the town, but then also thinking about, are there other, key folks within the town that would help to complement those and that could provide our team some of that institutional knowledge and feedback.
Okay, one other question, and you may not have an answer right now, but it sounds like you were very successful gathering feedback and responses and opinions from folks at the Waterfall Festival. What do you see as the next pop-up engagement? Or do you have any thoughts about when that may take place or what shape that may form?
I don't know, Paul, if there's any events you have in mind over the winter. I think our next big event, it will be that formal public event, but, we are certainly open to ideas that any of you have, for activities that are occurring within the town specific, within the town center area. Any opportunities that we have to piggyback on those types of events, we would love to take advantage of. But Paul, I don't know if you had any initial.
Yep, and I believe again we're kind of flushing those out. It's going to be see what opportunities do pop up, but I believe it's on December 6th. There is the holiday event that's happening in the town center, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I know that was recently announced and it's been publicized, but that's another option for us as well. And a lot of this is going to be looking at whether it's a pop-up or a focus group. Again, I kind of noted in my previous discussion that I do have a concern about the residents who live directly in the town center as well, and I do want to meet with them, especially those with limited accessibility, and go to them. So while that might not be a specific pop-up, there'll be stakeholders and as we go through the process. But yeah, we are identifying those as we go and seeing what will work and what we think will be able to get the best input with a diverse group of people at the event.
I was wondering about that. Yeah, the Night of Lights. I think it is December 6th. Correct me if I'm wrong. Would be another community-wide event where you might it might be an opportunity for feedback or for not only information gathering, but presenting information to folks. So thank you so much. This is exciting to see how it's moving forward, and we'll be anxious to hear what you have to tell us as you continue to gather information and as everything begins to take shape. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Kimberly and Paul. Also, thank you so much for all your work on this to date. It's pretty exciting to see how this is taking shape, and I'm very, very excited to see the future of this. So great stuff. Thank you.